Of what importance are statues and monuments to a country's history? And do colonial and apartheid era statues and monuments have a place in a democratic South Africa? Aren't this country's colonial statues and monuments being hijacked by some political organizations? And why target statues and monuments only, while the school syllabus is still full of this pre-colonial history? What time is it? It's question time. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Mpho. What started as a campaign by University of Cape Town students demanding the removal of British Imperialist Cecil John Rhodes statue from their campus, highlighting the institution's slow transformation pace, has resulted in an almost countrywide defacing of statues perceived to be reflective of South Africa's colonial and apartheid past. However, the Department of Arts and Culture stipulates that for the removal or relocation of a statue, a 30-day public consultation process has to be followed, including applying to the South African Heritage Resources Agency or relevant provincial or local structures. But don't these latest events signal the beginning of the rewriting of the country's history? A reminder that you can call us and air your views on the following numbers: 011-714-6841 or 42 or 43, 011-714-6841, 42 or 43. My guest today, we expect to be joined later by Sandile Memela from the Department of Arts and Culture, who is the spokesperson there. But joining us from our Pretoria studios right now is Freedom Front Plus Member of Parliament, Advocate Anton Alberts. Advocate Alberts, welcome to Question Time.
Thank you very much.
Perhaps just give us your take as the Freedom Front. What is your position in as far as this saga? And may I just borrow that word and use it just in respect of my talk, due to the fact that the story has just been unfolding and going on and on and on. What is Freedom Front Plus' position on that?
Well, we find it unfortunate. It's not good for social cohesion in the first place. We find that the statue painters are just opportunistic politicians. And they're not really dealing with the issues at hand in South Africa that really needs to be addressed, like the poverty problem that goes in hand, and of course with the economic problems we face. I would just like to give an example. You know, after the Anglo-Boer War, where both Afrikaners and black people were put in concentration camps, after that, and eventually when the Afrikaners took over government, they did not replace all the old symbols. And, you know, some of those symbols like Rhodes and Queen Victoria is actually symbols of that horrendous time in our history, but they said it must stay so that we can be reminded of history. So we think to take away symbols is not going to solve our problems, firstly. Secondly, we believe that the symbols must be addressed and placed in context so people understand who these people are. So there are some symbols, I guess, that are very offensive to people, as we've seen with Rhodes. I know you can make an exception in that case, but what most symbols represent is our past, and that we must actually not repeat the mistakes of the past, but build a joint future together.
Okay.
And in that sense, we can build new monuments that represent that.
All right. Now, Advocate Alberts, are you saying, therefore, as the Freedom Front Plus, that the monuments or the statues should not go?
Yes, ideally they should not go. I mean, if they are going to have to go somewhere, it will be sad, because people will not be able to walk past, let's say, for instance, Paul Kruger, and ask, who was this man and how did he fit into the history? So there will be a void in our history. We know history is not really taught in a comprehensive manner in schools. So only those few who go to university and are taught history there will get a very comprehensive view on the past. And the danger about this is that we can fall into a place where we actually repeat the mistakes of the past, and we don't want that to happen. So we are saying, let's give a context to all the various statues and monuments, that people understand it.
You were saying that there are some that are offensive. Which ones are those?
Well, I think Rhodes is both, as we can see, for the students and for black people, an offensive character. And he was also a very offensive character for the Afrikaner people. He actually instigated and started the Anglo-Boer War.
So are you saying that because he is also a sore figure within the Afrikaner people as well?
Yes, he most certainly is. Actually, so, the irony is that Paul Kruger and he was arch enemies.
Okay, so you would rather have Paul Kruger than Rhodes?
Well, what we're saying is that Rhodes mustn't be removed completely. He must find a space within the public sphere. But there must be an interpretation center of some sort that gives context to him.
But then why shouldn't Kruger go to the same place where Rhodes is going then?
Well, the plan is, according to what the ANC is saying, they want to put all Afrikaner statues in one place. So they want to create a Volksstaat of statues.
No, that's
which is just
not
crazy.
I don't think that's what they have said, and I don't want to speak for them, by the way. But aren't they the feeling that statues that do not reflect a new dispensation should be taken to the museums? You don't think that's where Kruger belongs?
No, we don't think that. You know, a flash indication or a poll that was taken among people, mostly black people standing around Kruger's statue, says he doesn't bother them, you know, they find it interesting and so forth. So we're saying, no, we shouldn't actually be moving. Rhodes, maybe a bit different because it's right in the face of university and so forth. It's not really in a public space. So you must be moved where people can actually go and see the statue and then and come to an understanding of history and how we fit into the history. Ideally, no statue should actually be moved, but we should be adding statues that can give us a sense of a joint and peaceful future.
Mr. or Advocate Alberts, I just want to clear something here as to what is the difference between Verwoerd, Paul Kruger, and Rhodes, and perhaps another colonialist?
Okay, Rhodes was a true colonialist and imperialist. He wanted to pave a way from Cape Town to Egypt, and he wanted to trample on all the rights of the indigenous peoples in getting that dream fulfilled. It never worked, though, but he did start the Anglo-Boer War as a result. Paul Kruger wasn't an imperialist. Paul Kruger is like George Bizos said, Advocate George Bizos himself is quoted saying that he was a man of the African soil. Where he came from is a man born in Africa and tracking with the voortrekkers into a hinterland, and then the republic was formed and he became the president. He also treated the black tribes in the surrounding areas as his equals. He actually gave land to some of the black tribes who were dispossessed of land because of the defacing. And he actually gave the land, for instance, to the Royal Bafokeng.
So you're saying
today, the Royal Bafokeng is the richest tribe because of Paul Kruger.
So you're saying black people must actually be appreciative of Paul Kruger. He was a good white.
I think so. He was, if you can look at what he did, he was the first white man in authority that actually gave land to black people that was dispossessed before the white man came there. So in a certain sense, he is the first black empowerer.
I see. So he pursued BEE when it was not fashionable, you think?
Yes, when he was president and he could afford to do so, yes.
Okay, but he was also a suppressive president. He presided over a segregated country.
Yes, that was true in those days.
So why should he be celebrated?
Well, he's part of our history.
Yeah, but not every history is worth celebrating, though, Advocate Albert.
Well, the thing is, you know, in those times, demographically, there were very little black people in the South African Republic of that time, the old ZAR. So they were minorities because he gave a lot of land.
So it doesn't matter to have suppressed a few blacks.
He didn't oppress anybody.
Okay, so he just I mean,
well, tell me, well, if you're saying oppressed, I mean that's a very bold statement. It's like I'm saying the Mandela oppressed people. You must give me evidence of this. Okay. There's nowhere in history evidence of this. This is absolute nonsense.
Okay, now what I'm saying to you is, you're saying there was a very few black people at the time when he presided over the republic. Am I correct?
Yes.
Now, does that therefore warrant the many black people today to therefore be appreciative of his efforts, as you have said?
I think so. I think the Royal Bafokeng are very appreciative of his efforts. If it wasn't for him, they wouldn't be the richest tribe in Africa at the moment.
Okay, hold the thought there. We're going to continue with this discussion. This question time, please don't go away. We'll return shortly.
Zoom into Africa. This is Ethiopia. The Prime Minister is Mr. Haile Mariam Desalegn. Ethiopia is Africa's oldest independent country. It was never colonized. The population is more than 80 million people. One of the major languages spoken is English. Monetary unit, birr.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. We are now joined by Sandile Memela from the Department of Arts and Culture. Also in our Pretoria studios, Freedom Front Plus Member of Parliament, Advocate Anton Alberts. Mr. Memela, welcome to the show. Advocate Alberts, we now have Mr. Memela here from the Department of Arts and Culture. Before we go to Mr. Memela, I just wanted to check something with you. Where do you get this history that there were fewer black people in the Transvaal when Kruger was presiding?
Well, the Defacing by Shaka Zulu dispersed many of the tribes. So when those people moved in there, it was basically just open land due to Defacing, which was basically a genocide of black on black. And therefore, very few people lived there, actually. Okay. And the few who did live there were living in fear of the Zulus. So when they moved in there, that's the Voortrekkers, they actually established peace in the process.
Okay. Mr. Memela, welcome to Question Time. Where should the statues go?
Yeah, that is the question that confronts the country as we speak. And I think it's a significant development that the Minister of Arts and Culture will convene a special consultative meeting this very Friday with student leaders, with heads of museums and other heritage sites, with civil society organizations, with intellectuals, academics, and of course, university authorities. Now, the point is, when the minister convenes this sort of meeting, it's because we live in a constitutional democracy where the government cannot just dictate for the people where they should go. Mm-hmm. We should all follow a due process where there is consultation, engagement, and discourse. But it's not like this is a new development because we've been through this path before. There are statues that have been removed and relocated and put away in museums. Yes. And the decision as to where all these statues should go will be taken by the gathering of the people of this country on Friday to chart the way forward, because they are proving to be a stumbling block in terms of nation building and social cohesion, where we begin to bridge the gap that exists amongst the people of this country because of factors like economic inequality, prejudice and stereotypes, and of course, special division, which reminds us about land disposition. And it's something that is very deeply wounding to the spirit and identity of black people. And until those kind of things are resolved, look, we will have these kind of issues where some segments of the population have got serious problems with colonial symbols.
Which statues have to go and which ones don't have to?
Very important question that. But before one answers it, much as we love history and it cannot be reversed, we need to acknowledge that history may be factual and accurate and sometimes controversial because of the perspective that one looks at. It is history, and we must distinguish it from heritage. Heritage is where a people, a nation in transition like we are, begins to look at history and consciously selects, consciously chooses leaders who represent the new values that the society upholds and wishes to promote. Leaders, personalities, and historical figures who actually helped to move us forward. And that distinction is very important because without us understanding that, we get emotional and get confused in terms of providing clarity in terms of the way forward.
Okay, let me just remind our viewers that they can actually take part in this program by dialing the number 011-714-6841, 42 or 43. Let us take your calls. The Advocate Albert, you've heard what Mr. Mamela has to say as obviously the voice of the Department of Arts and Culture. Do you share those views?
Yes, I think he's correct in his views. You know, we're a constitutional democracy, and he's acting within the framework of the Heritage Resources Act. And that should be followed. And obviously there must be consultation between all the stakeholders, and those inputs must be, you know, taken to government. Government is also bound by the Constitutional Court judgments that they must take those views up seriously. They can't just do window dressing when they do public consultation, and then try to find some sort of consensus solution. So that is the process to follow, and we will participate in that and see what happens in the end of the day.
Okay, Itumeleng, welcome to Question Time. You're calling us from Pretoria.
Hello, Mpo.
Yes.
Yes, Mpo, I would like to say I don't think the statues should go away.
Okay.
I think we've been in charge for 21 years. Black people have been in charge for 21 years. And then every time there's a hot issue in this country, it's about foreigners. You know, we are chasing after foreigners. Right now, white people are racist. But what is it that we are doing for ourselves, black people? Right now, there's a hot issue of statues. You know, this is very much embarrassing. But what is it that we are doing? 21 years, we are in charge of this country, but we are blaming foreigners. We are in charge of this country, but we are still blaming white people. What is it that we do for ourselves? Why can we be passionate of building this country, coming together and building this country? Busy, you know, Hitler does not have a statue, but we learn about Hitler every month. You see, Hitler does not have a statue. Take these statues away, and let's see what is it that we're going to benefit. We can take these statues away, but I don't see why we should have so much passion, so much trouble over these statues. Why we should be coming together trying to build this country. Thank you very much.
All right. Mr. Mamela, quickly.
Yeah, quickly. I mean, that's the problem with this country, where we do not appreciate the significant strides that we've taken. I mean, like the whole issue of the law on the National Heritage Resources Act was actually introduced in 1999, almost more than 15 years ago, which was forward-looking in terms of what needs to do, what needs to happen as far as the statues and other symbols are concerned. And it's nothing new, especially when one considers that there are airports that have been renamed, provinces that have been renamed, street names that have been changed, statues that have been relocated. And there are things that we're doing for themselves. And maybe it's about time we put rose-colored glasses to begin to appreciate what we've achieved, because this is a world-renowned constitutional democracy where, you know, our achievements are applauded.
Okay, Eunice, welcome to Question Time.
I'm Paul. I just want to comment on your show.
Yes.
My comment is there's a lot of violence going on, and in terms of statues and all that stuff. But my worry is we never get to the root of the problem, because on the floor we never being told the exact. I'll give you one example. As we are worried about the statues, there are 21,000 Ethiopians that have been killed in 10 years to date, like counting today backward. Nobody's anything about it. We don't know where to go about. When they talk about bent shacks, there are people inside who have been bent. They don't show us the picture of people that are bent inside, but the people on the ground will tell you, and there are people there inside that have been bent alive. And then what happens is the Ethiopians get the ashes and send them to Ethiopia. We don't know what the government is doing about it. There are no videos that are showing on the SABC. So there are things on the ground that we don't know, and as we want to help, we can't go to the root of the problem. Okay. The politicians don't tell us the truth, and the media doesn't show it all.
Okay. Eunice, thank you very much. I think you're just taking up issue with us as the media to report as much as we can. Mr. Mamela, indeed, there's going to be this dialogue, and that is going to happen. One of the questions that we asked was, there seemed to be a focus on the statues at the moment. What about the history books that kids are reading at school?
Of course, we'll need to recognize that the statues issue is a veil, a mask for deeper problems and challenges that confront this country. It's a good development that it has gotten us to be where we are. I mean, like, what we are about now is about us not only telling our own stories through our own eyes, but actually redefining our identity in a way that promotes self-pride and self-worth. And of course, we've got to address the issue of rewriting our history in a way that will reflect this country and its history the way that we know it. One can hear what the advocate is saying, but it's a biased and slant perspective that he presents, because not all people will identify with the perspective that he presents. And the Department of Education, intellectuals and academics are probably busy as we speak in terms of making sure that we portray and project a history that we can all identify with and relate to.
Stan,
thank you very much. I just want to make my input here regarding this status.
Yes.
You see, my view is we should not dismantle them. We should just keep them in a museum so that the future generation will be able to understand the present. Because you can't understand the present without having an understanding of the past. So our children must know what happened in the past. What was the history of the black people like in the past? So that we'll be able to understand the present and move forward.
All right.
In conclusion, I would like to say, let us put these statues in collectively in a safe place like museum.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Preston. Joe is in Mafikeng. Welcome, Joe.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Joe.
082?
No, Joe, you are on air now.
Paul, how are you?
I'm well.
Paul, I want to understand. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Paul, I want to understand. Because my problem, what I'm worried about is like our country. We are a fictitious country. We are like a fake country. Because, for example, people, they want to remove statues, but like, for example, the Rhodes, there are people who benefited via the bursaries and everything. Are they going to return that money? And secondly, my main worry is about, it's like we are, for example, it's like a car. We got a car that is there moving. We just want to pimp up the car. We don't want to create our own vehicle, because even the buildings and everything, are they going to crash those buildings, or what is going to happen, you know? Because you cannot be selective of what is that you don't want and what is that you want. Thanks.
Okay. Very quickly, Advocate Alberts, I want you to just respond to this caller and the previous one who was saying, the statues should go to the museum. Very quickly.
Well, as I said before, we would like to see it still in public space. Paul Kruger didn't really hurt people, so there's no point in attacking him. I think the EFF is being opportunistic in that respect, and they're attacking windmills while Eunice, the one caller, has said, you know, there are bigger problems that we need to deal with in South Africa. Obviously, some symbols like or statues, they carry power of symbolism and of history. So there must be a dialogue about that, but then we must be honest about history and not dish up history that didn't really happen or didn't exist. So I think Mr. Mamela is a bit putting the cart before the horses to say that he doesn't agree with my view, because that still has to be decided in the end of the day, whether that's a correct view or not.
Okay.
Government can't decide right now. There must be consultation first.
Okay. Mr. Mamela, let me give you a final word.
The final word is that we welcome the debate, the discourse that is taking place in the country. It is late. It would be untrue for anyone to say that the government has been caught off guard. All along, the Department of Arts and Culture, together with other departments, has been spearheading nation building and social cohesion.
Okay.
And of course, we know what the stumbling blocks are, and the Friday meeting will go beyond just the statues issue, because the face of the country needs to change to reflect who we are as a new society that is celebrated by the world. And it's about time that we celebrated ourselves and our achievements.
Thank you very much. That was question time for today. A big thank you to you, our guest, and to you for watching the show. We welcome your feedback via email, questiontime@sabc.co.za. Our Twitter handle @questiontime24. From me and the crew, have yourself a wonderful time. Goodbye.